Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. I'm so glad to have you here. I want to start out today's show with an announcement, just my thank you actually, and my gratitude for all the people who have been watching, subscribing, liking, asking questions, making comments, educating me with their notes on some of the things that I make mistakes on in my shows. Those are all great learning tools for me, lifelong learning. So I appreciate every single one of you out there, and I'm so glad that you've been watching. I just hit over 1,250 subscribers. It just was a great way to finish up this year. And we are celebrating a new season for Dave's Bonsai with this very show. We're going to start our new season a little early. Instead of waiting for the brand new calendar year, January 1st, 2022 to start the new season, we're going to do it to celebrate the winter solstice. So by the time I put this out there and let you all see it, it's going to be winter, official winter. Winter solstice, December 21st of 2021. Welcome to season number 4. So I'm super excited about season number 4 because I've got some early projects happening this winter that I just can't wait to start show you. Now I've been working on one project since November. And recorded it along the way, and I'm going to show it to you in bits and pieces because there's a lot of parts to it. So nothing like a little bit of bonsai videos to watch in the cold of winter, at least in the upper Midwest, when there's not a whole lot to do unless you really love the snow and cold, which I like to get outside as much as possible. But looking at some bonsai videos and working on trees is kind of where it's at for me these days, and so I really love it, and I love watching them, and I hope you enjoy them as well. So I got a couple great projects on the docket, and one of them we're going to get started with today. So our first season of the year is a project that I've been thinking about for a long time, and it's gone through different stages in my mind, and I even tried to start one a couple of years ago, and you'll learn about that here in the first episode. So again, my appreciation and thank you for all you folks out there watching and making comments and clicking like and all that. I can't wait for this next season to get started, and we're gonna do that right now. So let's get right to the first show, starting at the winter solstice of 2021. Enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it is the first of many on a new project I have for my bonsai. I'm standing in front of the fish tank forest contraption that I have in my plant room. So a couple of years back, I made this cabinetry with a 40-gallon fish tank underneath, got some storage at the bottom here, and made this top up here with this extra section here with the idea that I would have an open face to the water, and then I would have some bonsai trees growing over here on the left. And so before I go any further, let's go back into some earlier footage or some pictures. I think I might have video and or some pictures of what my first idea of combining my two passions. Well, my biggest passion is bonsai, and that is taken off, and I'm having a blast doing that. But ever since I was a kid and went to the Como Park Conservatory and gone down into the sunken gardens, that's where all the koi were before. And now in the Japanese garden on the outside, you can find koi in the outside pond in the summertime. So I've had a very big interest in koi, fish ponds, which I have in my backyard. This is my third or fourth iteration of ponds in my life. And I always have fish tanks to keep some of the koi indoors in the wintertime. Right now I just have a couple goldfish here. My koi are in the other tank in my old plant room. But I wanted to combine the two passions. I wanted to have the fish swimming down below and the tree penjing forest setting up on top. And so I kept this side of the tree, about a third of the top of the fish tank structure, where I would have trees. And down below this removable homemade little bonsai pot here, that's made out of wood, I have some wood at an angle and some holes drilled in there, and the water all drains down into the fish tank. So I figured I could have moving water, and I could water these trees, and the water would just go into the fish tank. So there are a couple of issues with that, but first, let's take a peek at that footage, the pictures and the footage of what it used to look like. I have some African cichlids in there.
for some fish. And I wanted to have a fish tank below, and I wanted to have almost a natural pond slash waterfall above. A couple of varieties of ficus with my river that is a dry bed at the moment. And so this top portion right up here is a removable bonsai pot, just homemade, and I have my ficuses spread out there. So this is a look as of February 2018. So that wraps up archival footage in the plant room.
So I had some ficus trees in there. I had a brush cherry in there, which I thought was a ficus, but the brush cherry is not a ficus. Broadleaf evergreen. And I had a little river in between some of the trees, and I had a pump that would take water from the fish tank, and it would come up the back section of the fish tank structure and send some water down and have like a cascading waterfall into the fish tank. So it was my first attempt. It was pretty rude. I had a little boardwalk, a dock if you will, and trees growing on the backside, and so it was an interesting first step in my attempt to have bonsai and fish all in the same scene. And I've since put a lot of trees in pots now. So these trees right here are in pots on the top surface of the bonsai big pot. But one of the things I've discovered too when you're working with bonsai trees, if you have them in pots like this on top of bonsai soil in a bigger pot like this, the moisture that's going to stay down below, as this dries out, the moisture down below stays there a little longer, and the roots actually start to grow through the pots and into this bigger bonsai pot right here. Promote some really big growth. I have to show you this one pot. Now it's going to be ripping up some roots, I think, because they're growing into the pot. Yeah, that's not coming out very... Oh, I just broke it off there, yeah. So look what I just did. I just snapped these roots right here. So there's like 2 inches of root growth, and I just broke some off, coming out of every hole. This plant is doing really, really well. And look at those 2 leaves. Absolutely huge. These are Premna cuttings from my Premnas. So what I want to do is I want to create a self-contained bonsai pot that I'm going to make homemade, kind of like my boot tray pot. And it's going to be about this big, probably no more than 24 left to right, and about 18 deep. So it's going to be big. But it's going to house a whole bunch of rocks that's going to also become a fish tank. What in the world am I talking about? Let's give you a sneak peek, a preview. I've done some sketches. I'm not an artist. Let's show you those, and let's get a little box to mimic what we're thinking about, and I'll show you the very first stages of the development of this project that hopefully will be done by springtime. It is late November. I'm getting started here as we start December, and these winter months are going to be fun to work on this project. I've got some plexiglass coming in the mail today that'll be the front of this homemade fish tank bonsai pot contraption. So here we have my little rendering of a potential bonsai slash fish tank. Now I won't be able to keep koi in this fish tank because, again, perspective, the fish have to be super tiny. One of my favorite fish growing up as a kid is I always loved the neon tetras. So I might get a dozen neon tetras, and that'll be the little fish that are swimming in the pond. Yes, look at those incredibly drawn fish. My mom always used to say to me, Dave, yeah, you're really good at trees. This is kind of the front view of what I envision. And the fish tank part is in the middle. And we've got some stone and some earth over here, and some stone and earth over here. And I want a lot of rocks, because when you look through the fish tank, you'll see the rock structure. And then when you look at the top part of the tree, it'll be like trees growing on rocks. And I get my inspiration from the North Shore of Minnesota. From the Superior Hiking Trail in the North Shore, I got this image of a tree that looks like it's just growing right on a rock cliff. Now, it's not the most majestic tree, but I just loved this image, and it just said, oh, if I could create a bonsai image someday of that, that would be really cool. So this picture I've had, it's been around for a year or two, maybe 3, and I'm like, someday I'll get there. Well, I think this project is going to be one of those attempts to make that image. So if I have some rocks on the left or right where one of the trees is like growing on rocks on the edge of a cliff, this could be above the water. So when you look at the side here, we could have the rock come up here. So the rock will be like 4, 5, 6 inches off the top of the bottom of the pot here where the water stops, right? And then I could have a tree up here, maybe a tree on this side, a couple in the background. I even have a spot back here for if I can get a little dribble of water, we can have water come through the back of this penjing and flow into the fish tank from the bottom corner, back corner of this big pot. And then back here over on this one here, the moisture will come down here and drain. I don't want the trees to drain in the fish tank, but this will drain into the fish tank, the river right here. Now the reason I don't want the water to drain into the fish tank is that if I ever fertilize these, I don't want to fertilize the fish tank here and get all kinds of algae growth and have an issue with how small of a water source this will be. So I'll want these trees to drain separately from here. So I have to have a way for these to successfully drain. I'll have to be able to make sure I can lift this up and put it in a nice place in the summertime that can drain. If I put it outside, maybe on the porch, on the deck, where it's really nice for people to see and protect it from the weather. And then if I keep it indoors most of the year, I'll keep it in my plant room in a place where I'll have a tray underneath that'll collect the extra water. So as I raise this picture up just a little bit, here is like now a cross section of the very front of the tree. And I even drew like a down tree that comes down the rock cliff here. And there's a tree with some of the roots sprout out here that's in the water. And then the fish will be swimming in here. And so the fish tank will be about the wood I envision being about 2 inches off the bottom. The glass will go about 4 or 5 inches above this lip. So I'll have about a 6-inch piece of plexiglass. 2 will be buried, 4 inches will be above the ground, and it'll be about a 4-inch, maybe if I can get it to 5-inch high water line, you'll be able to see some fish swimming in there. And then here's the rocks that can come up above the structure right here, maybe a couple inches, maybe 3-4 inches on one side, lower on the other with a tree. And again, whoops. The tree then can sprout up here, growing off the cliff like that. And then you have your little tree up here. And then of course a tree can come up here as well. We can have some small ones in the background. And you got your trees. So I'm hoping when you look at this from eye level, you'll be able to see water and some fish swimming around. You'll be able to see this land. This will be wood right here or rocks. The rocks will bleed into the water tank. So I'll have to find some way to glue the plexiglass to the rock structure that'll hold the water in. So there is a glimpse of a little bit of artwork of my vision of what could be. So the other drawing, just for reference, is this is the top view of the river or the lake. So here's the lake where the water would be. Here's some trees with some drainage, and then we'd put a pump over here or a pump over here where the water can come flowing into the main body of water, or it could come from this side from like the other drawing. So tree drainage, nothing drains into the pond at this point of the development and the plans of this, but we will have a pump underneath the trees over here, a small pump that's getting water from the fish tank. So a cable will come up here, go back on the back side here into the pump and come back up here to the top and spray down in here. So it just continually feeds itself, makes aeration and filtration for the fish tank. So that's my early conception of the top view of how these trees will sit. A couple trees in the foreground, maybe a couple of trees back here, but I have to have the drainage go away from where this source of water is going to come from. So here I have an old box that I used for something in the bonsai world, and I don't remember. And I have a collection of all the rocks that I have collected over the years for potential projects. And so this one is now in a position where I can maybe use some of these rocks to make this really cool process. So I'm going to move some rocks out of here and just give you a little idea of what I'm talking about here for this idea. So this isn't going to be the bonsai pot. I will make a new bonsai pot out of some real nice clean wood. We'll give it a couple of coats of stain or varnish or a glaze finish so it's really protected from the elements, because if I bring this outside and it gets rained on, it has the elements, I want to make sure that it's going to look good for years to come. But this is going to be the base, something like this, about this size. This is about 18 right here, so this will be the depth of the tank, but I'm going to make it a little bit longer, about 24 by 18. And so from the front where you are, what I'm going to want to have happen is I'm going to want to have some rocks that will connect to the glass. So my vision of this, so I have a rock like this for instance, if I can stage this rock, or build a structure so I can have a rock sit like this, and then I have this rock right here that can be something like this. And these rocks are a little bit too big, so let's pull it out here for perspective. Let's go this way because it's flatter. There. So here's the trail of water that comes in here. And I would have a piece of plexiglass that would be glued to these flat sides of the rocks. And so you see the glass up front, and then the lip would be up about here, about 4 inches tall. And this would be the fish tank right in here. So then down in here is the space where the drainage would happen. So if I have all these rocks here, I got a couple of sample rocks here that could stand up. I don't have all of this designed out yet by any stretch. But here is an example of kind of what I'm thinking about. This section in here would be the fish tank for these little tiny neon tetras. Probably be about 4 gallons, 5 tops. 3 to 4 would be great. For the weight alone, I don't want it to be too heavy. So this might be 3 gallons of water in here, only about 4 inches tall. So maybe 2 to 3 gallons in the end. And so this rock structure is what you would see as you look in the fish tank. And then I have some great big rocks with some great face here. I could put this on top. I could grow a bonsai tree right on here somehow, but the roots have nowhere to go, right? So I have to figure out how that can be. I might even be able to put this as a rock cliff going into the water on this fish tank on one side. Say we open it up really, whoop, we just lost one of our rocks. Let's put this one there instead. There we go. So here's the waterway. So here's a cliff, right? And then I wouldn't put these rocks in here because you can't see them. So that would also make it super heavy. So I'll put some wood structures in here as I make my wooden bonsai pot and put them all securely so that I can rest rocks on top. So maybe this rock would be sitting up like this. So then I have this protection here for the fish. They can't go hiding off into the bonsai pot. I have soil going all beneath this rock. Now this is a big heavy rock, so I wouldn't use this one. But there would be a possible situation right there with a rock. Kind of sits, hugs in there real good right there. So I could use this as a rock face that just rests up against some wood structure in here. Again, it won't be rocks. Maybe some 2x4s in here to hold this up. I love this rock right here. Look at this pillar of rock that has these nice shale kind of, I could probably peel some of this off with a little chisel and a hammer. But has some really cool texture. You know, could that be in the back as kind of a neat design? Or could it be in the front as a really neat design as the fish swims around in here? And again, we might have a dead tree that goes down in here. So as I build up something like this, you know, this is too tall. But again, if I make this some kind of cliff down in here, on this side, and this one's on this side, I've got this alleyway of kind of like what would be like the Cascade River up on the north shore of Minnesota, where they have these great big deep gouges of water from water going through all these years. Has some nice texture on this one. It's got a nice swoop in here. It goes up like this, and so then if I have a bonsai tree sitting right in here, that would be really kind of fantastic. So I could put bonsai soil in here, and I could have these smaller rocks just as a couple accent, and I have a whole bunch of even smaller than this that we can put along here to make it look like it's a big rocky area. We put the bonsai soil on there, then some moss, the trees, and it could be a really fun penjing here with bonsai and some fish. So this is just my first iteration. I've got this box that I had, and I have all these rocks, and just the other night I said, ooh, it's time to start my new project. So we want to keep it as light as possible so I can actually lift it, or if my son and I or someone can help me lift it from time to time, because it'll be a pretty heavy structure. And again, we won't have all these big rocks. It'll be wood chunks and then just smaller rocks on top. And these are pretty light for how big they are. And we'll see how the design comes to fruition. I don't know that I want flat walls all the way through, but these are just some really cool rocks. This would be a really great one for a top section over here if this was the scene, and even if the water could roll down here. I have a couple other rocks. All kinds of fun things to try out for this project. So that's my idea. I'm going to look at some other designs here with these pieces of wood. My next stage is to actually make the pot. So I'm going to head out to get some wood so I can make the base of this future pot. And I have to make it so it's the size I want, and then I'm going to have to make it so I can make the trees be able to drain and also store pump for the water, and then be able to put the plexiglass in here. So the plexiglass is coming this afternoon. I'm going to be able to get that piece, put it in here, see how it kind of sits against these initial rocks, and just kind of get a glimpse. I might even be able to take this one right here and take a chisel to it right here and just crack it in half and use one half for this side and then the other half for this side. And I have really flat rocks for that plexiglass to glue up against so it's waterproof. And then finally, to make the whole thing waterproof, I'm just going to take some leftover pond liner I have from my ponds, and I will put the pond liner over the wood structure so the water will never leak anywhere. And then once the pond liner is in there, I will lay this against the pond liner. People will never see the pond liner, they're just going to see the pretty rocks, but then the water won't seep through and I'll have protection. The only thing I'm going to be worried about is where that glass connects to this side. This side I will probably have a wood structure with the pond liner just going over the back, because no one will be able to see exactly to the back, and again I might just cover it with a rock. So there's just some design elements. Phase one of the project is research, trying some things out, the creative process. I've got my drawings, I've got the rocks, I've got a whole bunch of other small rocks. We got plenty of rocks to choose from. I've got all kinds of cuttings I could start putting into something like this right away, but that's going to be way down the line, right? So we got to get the pot made. We're going to get the plexiglass to see if we can see what it's going to look like, and then we'll move on to the next stage of this project. So there you have the first phase of my project. I've been working on it since, so I can't spoil anything for you. That was quite a while ago when I shot that. And it was really kind of fun to just be in that creative stage and take out the pencil and do those drawings. And I had to get some of my thoughts down on paper. So if you're thinking about a big project, of course, some people really like to research them a lot and make some drawings and sketch things out and just kind of see how things might work. But then you really can't solve some of the problems you come up with in a project like this until you dig right in and do them. I already think there's something I wish I would have done differently, but I can't spoil that either for you. So you'll have to stay tuned for the next sessions. We're gonna have parts 2, 3, 4, and 5 before this is over. Some fun viewing, I hope, for all of you. Fun for me making these. It's gonna be a fun time. So again, I appreciate all you have done for me and Dave's Bonsai. I hope you continue to watch, spread the word. I'd appreciate that. And we'll just keep making some videos. So hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai. Happy winter solstice, and we'll catch you on the next one.